March 3rd Public Board Meeting. Want to appreciate everybody's patience as we get started. Just a little bit late this evening. So on behalf of the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners, I'd like to welcome you all. I'll now read a roll call of the board to identify who is present. Please identify yourself first before speaking for the record. I'll do the roll call for each vote this evening. Vice Chair Parker.
Vice Chair Parker present.
Thank you. Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Ames Messenger present.
Thank you. Commissioner Chicas Guzman.
Chicas Guzman present.
Thank you. Commissioner Coy.
Commissioner Coy present.
Welcome. Commissioner Esposito.
Commissioner Esposito present.
Thank you. Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay, present.
Thank you. Commissioner Mohammed. Commissioner Scott Woodruff.
Commissioner Scott Woodruff present.
Commissioner Simmons.
Simmons present.
Commissioner Slayer Harrington. And I am present. Is there a motion to reopen tonight's meeting?
So moved Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. Is there a second?
Second.
Kenyatta Bay.
Take Kenyatta Bay. All in favor, Vice Chair Parker.
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Yes.
Commissioner Chicas Guzman. Thank you, Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Commissioner Scott Woodruff. Commissioner Simmons. And I'm in favor. This motion passes. Now I'd like to ask our audience and our board to join us in the presentation of colors by the JROTC at Reginald F. Lewis High School.
Time. What? Oh. Face. Sir, Command Sergeant Major Sakarias requires admission at full scholarship, sir. Commissioner Grant. Thank you, sir. Present arms. Order arms. Reverse march. Group. Oh. Present arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order arms. Post. Ready, face. Hold, colors. Colors.
Is there a motion to approve the prior open session minutes?
So moved Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. Is there a second?
Second. Chicas Guzman.
Thank you, Commissioner Chicas Guzman. All in favor, Vice Chair Parker.
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Yes.
Commissioner Chicas Guzman.
Yes.
Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Commissioner Scott Woodruff.
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons.
Yes.
And I'm in favor. This motion passes. Is there a motion to approve the closed session summaries?
So moved, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second Simmons.
I'll take Commissioner Simmons on the second. All in favor, Vice Chair Parker.
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Yes.
Commissioner Chicas Guzman.
Yes.
Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed. Sorry, Commissioner Scott Woodruff.
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons.
Yes.
And I'm in favor. This motion passes. I'm actually going to kick it off with my board chair comments this evening, just with an acknowledgement of a gift and donation from the Baltimore Orioles to Harlem Park Elementary Middle School as a gift for moving from a 2-star school to a 3-star school. The donations include hats, gloves, bats, baseballs, plush animals, decals, and foam fingers equating to $7,925. We appreciate the support from the Baltimore Orioles. I'd also like to turn it over to Commissioner Chicas Guzman to lead us off tonight with Women's History Month and acknowledgement there.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. One of the board's 7 priorities is to implement policies, practices, and procedures that foster a welcoming and inclusive academic and professional environment. Through this commitment, we celebrate the differences that make our community vibrant, strong, and united in purpose. Tonight, we are proud to continue our One Baltimore Moments. This tradition brings our community together nearly each month to recognize the important heritage celebrations from the district's annual recognitions calendar, which is available on the City Schools website by searching word recognitions. Our goal is not only to honor history, but to spark curiosity, deepen understanding, and inspire continued learning. This month, City Schools joins communities across a nation in celebrating Women's History Month, a time to recognize the achievements and lasting impact of women throughout history. From educators to leaders in business, the arts, and advocacy, women have strengthened our city, state, and our nation. Their leadership and perseverance continue to inspire the next generation. In recognition of Women's History Month, we are highlighting the schools in our district named after women who have made lasting contributions to history and society. These include Dorothy I. Height, Billie Holiday, Mary Ann Winterling, and many others. Each school honors women who have shaped civil rights, education, the arts, and opportunities for future generations. Their names serve as daily reminders of encouraged resilience and leadership. By recognizing these pioneers, we celebrate their legacy and encourage our students to carry it forward. Those attending or watching at home can scan the QR code to learn more about these schools, if it is above, their namesakes, and the impact they continue to have in our community. Women's History Month is also a time to recognize our all-girls schools. Western High School, the oldest all-female public school in the country, and Baltimore Leadership School for Women. Founded in 1844 as the Western Female High School, Western is not only the oldest all-girls public school still operating in the United States, but also the 3rd oldest public school in Maryland. Before its opening, girls in Baltimore did not have the opportunity to continue their education beyond grammar school. With just 2 rented rooms and 36 students, Principal Robert Kerr began a legacy of educating young women. More than a century later, in 1954, Baltimore City Public Schools was interrogated, extending this legacy of all-girls education to students of color. 55 years after that, Baltimore Leadership School for Young Women, affectionately known as BLISS, first opened on the 3rd floor of Western's building before moving to its own campus in downtown Baltimore. Today, both schools continue to nurture leadership, academic excellence, and opportunity for generations of young women. Thank you, commissioners, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Chicas Guzman. Appreciate the warm acknowledgement of the contributions of women to society, to our school system, and our community at large. So thank you for leading us off on that tonight. I'm proud to provide an update as part of our commitment to our community around the CEO search as we enter our final phases of the search with an update on our community engagement report. We are pleased to share the findings from the community engagement report that was originally commissioned by Alma Advisory Group and share how its findings link to the priorities of the district for our next chief executive officer. Alma and the board spent 2 months reaching out to our stakeholders, including students, families, community members, state elected officials, staff, and our school administrators, as well as teachers, to gather input on issues affecting the district. As we go through tonight's presentation, we'll be highlighting part of that report, as well as talking about what the set of priorities that will carry us through our next CEO in our initial stages. We want to take a moment to acknowledge Dr. Santelises and her leadership, as well as our entire district for getting us here to this point, which allows us to build upon that great work and go to our next chapter here in Baltimore City. And so it's without that progress, we wouldn't be here today, and we thank you very much for that. So I'll now turn it over to Commissioner Ames Messenger to kick us off.
Thank you. So as Chair Sally had said, we've spent the last couple of months working with Alma, as well as kind of having broader conversations with members of the board and the public to begin to think not only in how are we looking for the qualities and skills and goals that we're setting for our next CEO, but what does this look for the transition and what's next for us as a district. So we'll be walking through some kind of key areas from the communications report that Alma has created for us. You can find it on the website. It will be posted this evening, along with the outline of some of the kind of focus areas and values that are coming out of this conversation. And that's kind of with the goal that over the next 2 months, we'll be looking to engage members of Baltimore community in kind of providing feedback on what this looks like as we move towards having new goals and more concrete metrics, and ultimately a strategic plan looking into the next year. So you can go ahead to the next slide. Thanks, Nisha.
So I believe I'm up on this one. So the community engagement report, as we shared previously, transpired over a 3-month period where we had an opportunity to align with our stakeholders. So the range of stakeholders that you'll see on the screen tonight comprise us of where we are today. These feedback that we used, as we shared before, helped us to craft the CEO job description that is out right now, as well as to support our candidate recruitment efforts and the interview process that's ongoing right now. And so as we go through the final interview stages, we'll continue to draw from that report and from the information that was shared from our community. The board is also using this feedback, as we've shared, very concretely to plan an orderly transition from Dr. Santelises' administration to our next administration, and to direct the direction the CEO and the board will take together to build city schools and where we head next with our strategic planning efforts coming up. We go forward to the next slide. So in the analysis of the student engagement report represents a wide cross-section of city schools and Baltimore's recognized groups, balancing the need for our partners and more broadly in our public interests. It was critically important for us as we took an opportunity to dive a little bit deeper as understanding the student perspectives that were shared in the report, as we know that students represented the largest group of information that was shared with us. And know that at the end of the day, our end users is what matters to us most here in city schools. The opportunity to have the perspectives from our community outside of the walls of city schools was really important, from parents to our higher ed community to our business community and philanthropic partners as well. Go forward to the next slide.
And kind of building on that, Chair Sally, the takeaway from this report is that Baltimore wants a lot of things, and sometimes they conflict and sometimes they're at extremes. So what we'll be looking through is that kind of at a high level, what are the themes of things that Baltimore is doing well, that have been successes coming out of this unprecedented period of stability, where areas that the community really would like to focus and continue to grow and strengthen, and where do we need to kind of maintain. And I will say, like, while this was not a universal sentiment, the consensus within the engagement this fall and in conversations throughout is not that the community wants a dramatic change, is that ultimately that they're wanting us to continue to focus on the work that the district is already doing, that our great educators in the classroom, that our students are working, and so that these focus areas coming out of these and the conversations that we'll be having over the next couple of months are looking at how do we go deeper into areas where we can continue to grow and change and develop. And finally, just looking at this is just to be clear, and we'll come back to this at the timeline at the end, is that these are kind of general areas that the board has raised out of this report, and that ultimately we're looking for feedback from the community as we get to the point where we have concrete metrics and goals over the next couple of months. You can go to the next slide. There we go. And so kicking off our first area, beginning to look, one of the first major themes coming out of this period of community engagement is looking specifically on the needs of diverse learners. When we look through, one of the top ranked priorities across all categories, regardless of the demographic that we are looking for, is this 55% of looking to say that they provide academic support and helping students succeed is a top priority. When we're looking at existing strengths, there is feedback from the community saying that we're looking to support diverse learners and multilingual students is a strength that we are looking, and that speaks to not only that this is a priority for a community, but where we are looking to continue to invest. And coming through that they're kind of like looking at some of these specific demographic groups that came up through the engagement. Teachers and school staff are looking for an equity champion, looking for specifics in urban education, multilingual learners, and special education. Again, when I'm thinking of us, just of the work that we have done as a district around equity and building these pipelines and building on that strong foundation. And then looking as we look at whether that is charter partners, looking at parents, and one of the major terms looking is like focusing on special education, and for district leaders to continuing to focus on how do we build the capacity specifically within special education students here in the district. And so with this, these are kind of the feedback we are going, and so we'll be looking at over to Chair Sally to tee up our first focus area.
All right, so this does lead us to the first focus area that we will be working with our new superintendent together on as a board, which will focus on supporting students with diverse learning needs. Specifically, the board, in conjunction with our new superintendent, want to focus on how are we strengthening early identification, intense interventions, inclusion, fidelity of services, family and community engagement related to students with disabilities and diverse learning needs. I'll turn it up. Oh, actually.
And pointing kind of to, as you will see, along with the community engagement report from Alma, there is also a document that will be looking at a high level at these focus areas and have some kind of guided questions. The next step for the board will be looking at how are we taking specific metrics, looking at what our progress monitoring process is, look at what that data is. So I will say, if this is not a time that you have been involved in the board's work, now is a great time to jump in. Join a committee meeting, offer public comment, whether that's here or elsewhere. At the end, you'll see that there is also a survey link to be able to provide feedback, but we're looking within these kind of broad areas, what are the specific areas that you are looking for the board and city schools by extension to focus as our concrete goals that will ultimately segue to the strategic plan. Kind of moving on to our next area, our next big area, looking at lots of feedback came back in the engagement report related to our school portfolio. If you're an insider, that is the language that we use broadly to describe the different types of schools that we offer. And that with this of looking at that, we are able to provide kind of the best match for the diverse educational needs that we have for all students in our community. Consistently across the survey, across listening sessions, across focus groups, there was a strong commitment for expanding equitable access to specific programs that include CTE, arts programming, and enrichment opportunities. There's a strong desire to address resource equity for schools, whether that looks through budget, to the conversation around small schools and large schools and how that all works, and then also looking at post-secondary and workforce transitions. And that ultimately also there was a call to revisit the conversation between school autonomy and centralized supports, and how do we find the right balance for that. And ultimately kind of wrapping back in, and actually, Tanisha, if you don't mind to go back just one slide real quickly, please. Thank you. Perfect. It's just looking at this, that as we're looking at this 44% of looking at this high level, looking at budget and facilities and charter schools, of how do we get that balance within the district, right, so that all students have what they need. And sorry, you can go ahead, Tanisha, next slide.
So I'll take it from here for that second focus area on the school portfolio strategy, anchored in the data that was just shared, gives us as a board an opportunity to really explore what are the considerations for our entire portfolio, encompassing both our traditional schools, our charter, our neighborhood schools, our selection of our criterion-based schools, as well as looking at CTE programs and specialized and citywide programs. As we looked at the data throughout the community engagement report, one of the top considerations that came up for families and our students students and young people was understanding the role that transportation plays and how that may shape how we think about both a necessary barrier to overcome as well as a positive consequence of changing and revising the city schools portfolio strategy. So this is an area that the board is interested in undertaking and recognize that it's multifaceted. It's going to require a number of perspectives and going deep and wide and broad, as well as understanding the limitations of what we can do with our portfolio.
All right, thanks. You should go to the next slide. Looking in this, and you'll see just by the sheer volume of text on this slide, this was a very popular topic among the community engagement across forums when we're thinking about the next CEO and the next chapter. And that this, in many cases, it speaks to the strengths. When you look at engagement with our community leaders, our elected officials, that this is something that's deep in the conversation that's happening in Baltimore. And so looking at around these general themes around climate and well-being, that ultimately focusing on attendance has been key issue, that we're looking to support and provide well-being for students, the joyful and safe environment are kind of consistently top priorities regardless of the stakeholder group that you're looking at. Go ahead. Next slide. Go ahead, Sally.
Right. So school climate and student well-being gives us an opportunity to really explore these kind of key areas that are highlighted in the box below. So looking at school, culture, and climate, extracurricular programming, culturally responsive curriculum, school safety, and bullying concerns. One of the things that we've heard pretty loud and widely from the community is our commitment, including our elected officials, our philanthropic partners, and families have begun to rally around chronic absenteeism and a long-term metric of individual student well-being. The report itself flags longer-term priorities such as strengthening student mental health and well-being, the infrastructure around those supports, deepening restorative and belonging-centered school cultures, and expanding authentic structures for family and community partnerships. So school climate and student well-being are intimately interconnected in their interventions and how we measure it and how it impacts students. So we're excited to dive into this area, number 3.
All right, coming into our final broad bucket is looking at the area of school performance and looking at how do we grow student outcomes, but at a school level. So 55% are saying that according to that they're providing academic support and helping students succeed is their top priority. Again, like overwhelming, and that makes sense. We're a school district. That's what we should be doing well. And looking it through, how are we kind of deep and dive that for the elected officials, there was a consistent desire.
Excuse me, Commissioner. Could we, okay, I just wanted to make sure you had the right slide, ma'am.
Elected officials, you're looking to make sure that someone who will raise standards for all students and kind of be having a mindfulness around persistent gaps. For higher education, partners are looking for an instructional leader, a really deep dive about the supports that we're providing, and again, building on the work of the current administration of how are we supporting teachers and educators here in those pipeline work. And that finally, saying preparing for students for their career, and that ultimately that is regardless of which school, and that all the outcome for all of our schools will be heading that way. And go ahead, Sally.
Yeah, and so that fourth priority, there's a couple of key considerations that we want to make sure that the focal eye is put on in terms of supporting more high-performing schools across our system. So understanding, where's the need, where's the gap, why does it exist, and why does it persist? And so looking deep at our high schools, looking at areas that we know, like math instruction, that need deeper concentration, and an important role that leadership and staff development play in terms of improving outcomes for our young people.
All right. Here we go. Tanisha, next slide. Thank you. So we have kind of worked through these broad areas, these 4 focus areas that will ultimately come the goal. And this is looking at kind of framing broadly of what we are asking our next CEO to do and what we are looking to achieve as a district together over the next period of 3 to 5 years. Kind of the second section that we'll have Chair Sally introduce us to in a moment is thinking about kind of how Baltimore is asking for the CEO and city schools at large to approach the work. What are kind of the values and the things that they are asking about in in our human relationships with one another, how we are expecting the district to interact. So we can go ahead, and the standards that the board will be holding themselves to as well.
So these five community.
Next slide.
Oh.
Thanks, Tanisha.
These five community values that you'll see on the slide before undergird all of the work that the board wants to pursue in this next phase. So one, elevating student perspectives and the important role in terms of understanding how our young people experience education here in Baltimore City, pursuing operational excellence in our systems and infrastructure here in the district, communicating clearly and transparently with our stakeholders, seeking out staff expertise as a way to drive the work here in the district, and understanding the role of budget resources being equitably distributed across the system. These values were present throughout the community engagement report and the board's conversation with community members. Like guardrails, these values will frame if the board and the next CEO are meeting the community's expectations and how schools relate to our people. What is measured gets done, and the board is looking to assess and track whether we are meeting these values. This is an essential area for feedback on how these values can be measured and assessed. And so we'll be looking for feedback from our community on these values.
Slide, Tanisha. So this is very small here, but there is a much larger copy that you can find on the website, on the board page. But looking at kind of as we'll be walking through, so we are currently in March of 2026. Time is flying. So between now and May, you'll have multiple opportunities in order to provide feedback on these focus areas. Are we in the right area? What does that look like for you in practice, in your work in city schools, in your life as a parent, as a partner, as a volunteer, as a philanthropist, as a higher ed? So whatever your lens are, what are the things, what are the indicators that you are looking for within these broad focus areas and values to be looking to measure? From there, the board and district staff with community input will be looking to build out those end kind of goals and metrics, as well as some progress monitoring. So looking at how that will be reflected in the calendar going into the next year. So when you sign into a board meeting, when you sign into a committee meeting, what are the conversations that we are having, and how do we hold ourselves accountable to driving change in these specific areas? Moving on into May and June, and some of this that ultimately this is a collaborative goal between the board, district, and the new CEO. So while we hope to have ideas of what is the meaningful indicators for that for us in Baltimore, ultimately those final numbers will not be set until we have the new CEO is in-house, and that will be done in conjunction with the board and the CEO. Moving on beyond that though, so looking at as we hit summer and into early fall, our new CEO will have arrived here in Baltimore, begun work, and beginning to kind of engage in a community listening tour, and that these values and focus areas will help provide guiding structure for what that looks like, and how do we have those conversations in a way that are moving us all together in one direction. Moving further into fall of 2026, the CEO and the board will share the final version of the goals with those metrics, and that those ultimately will become part of the CEO's evaluation and the ongoing progress monitoring calendar. Finally, moving into winter and spring of next year, the board and the CEO will work together to take all of those goals, metrics, and indicators to create a new strategic plan of looking at where are we going as a city, together as city schools, into this next chapter, building on the strong legacy that we have, and to be able to better serve students. And then so ultimately, we're looking for the adoption of that new strategic plan by late spring of 2027. So in a little bit more than a year. Going to the next slide.
So we want to acknowledge the hard work that was done by our entire system underneath Dr. Santelises' leadership for our current board goals. We will be wrapping those up as we wind down this school year and talking about our progress collectively on those before we talk about what the timeline and the progress is for setting new board goals. This in the immediate term will come in the area of focus areas that were shared with us today. We'll also be talking a little bit more about the community values and how those are captured in staff and community feedback. We're excited about how we discuss how we're living out collectively into our community values as a board and with our new CEO. I'll turn it over to Emily to take us home.
All right, last slide. So as promised, this is actually from one of our, I think it's actually from an elected or a community member. Is I love that once Baltimore City Schools recognizes a problem, whatever resources we have, they try to resolve that issue. And I think that that has been the story as we have moved through the last 10 years, and we hope to continue to have that be our narrative. And as we are recruiting a new CEO candidate that we have been fortunate, you're like that is, people want to be here and doing that work with us. And so looking at, and that really, again, just as you have a chance to read the community engagement report, there is just the testament is that our strength is in our people and the people that are with our kids every day. And that how do we build on those strengths? So we need your feedback to look at, where is this right? And what does this look like in the details? That it matches that we have valuable indicators to drive this work forward. So there are kind of three major ways. If you scan that QR code, there will also be a link on the website that you're actually just a simple survey provided, like what worked, what didn't, what specific metrics are you looking for and would be meaningful for you. You are also, we encourage you to join, make public comment, whether that is in this setting, whether that is in committee meetings, but provide feedback about what is working for you. And then finally, we'll be doing strategic outreach to all of our recognized groups, as well as kind of longstanding meetings and community partners to be able to get feedback on these focus areas. And thank you for staff who has been diligently and will continue to diligently work to partner to make sure that we are pulling on the right indicators to make sure that we are collectively measuring and working together.
I'll wind it up by saying that we have continued to message this as a baton pass from Dr. Santelises' leadership onto our next CEO. We want to honor the work, the collective work of our board, our staff, our students in terms of where we are today, and continue to partner with all of our stakeholders in this effort to ensure that all of our kids have an exceptional education here in city schools. We can't do that without the feedback and making sure that as we think about the future, we have the feedback, we continue to refine what's important for our community. And so we appreciate everybody's efforts in that. And so I want to thank Commissioner Ames Messenger for her leadership on this work, as well as our partners at Alma Advisory who conducted the community engagement for us. We will continue to update the public with where we are in the search process. We are in our final stages of the interview process, but we'll have more to come in the coming weeks. So thank you all. So as we wind up that, we'll transition into the next piece of our board business this evening, if I'm in the right place, is the approval of our personnel, employment, and payroll. Is there a motion to approve the PEP agenda this evening?
So moved, Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. Is there a second?
Second, Simmons.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. All in favor? Vice Chair Parker?
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger?
Yes.
Commissioner Coy?
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito?
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay?
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott Woodruff?
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington's not here. I'm in favor. This motion passes. I will now turn it over to Dr. Santelises for CEO comments.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I will say publicly that as both you and Commissioner Ames Messenger went through that long list, I felt kind of a wave of relief with each slide that preceded, knowing that somebody is coming in to take that. But it really is just, I want to give the board just huge kudos on the process you've run, that you are running, the feedback that you've taken from the community, the way that you've engaged. And I think it really is a signal of the leadership that this body has taken. And I think our community should take great comfort in the seriousness and the diligence with which this body has engaged in a leadership transition. And all you have to do is pick up a newspaper or read it online, and you will see that that is not the way it goes in every community. So I think I just want to personally thank you for the way that you've handled it. And it's just been an honor to watch you navigate and steward this process. So I needed to say that because it is definitely needed in the current times we're in. So thank you all. Now I will invite Ayanna Patterson for this evening's PEP agenda. And Ms. Patterson is coming up. While our chief is out, she left this evening's PEP in the more than capable hands of Ms. Patterson. So thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Santelises and Board Commissioners. I have the pleasure of reading tonight's PEP agenda. If you're here with us tonight, please stand so that we can properly recognize you. From the Office of the Chief of Schools, it's recommended that Ashley Bessick, currently Literacy Coach 10-month at Joseph C. Briscoe, be appointed Assistant Principal at Joseph C. Briscoe effective March 7th, 2026. Also recommended that Kaniqua Hakeem, currently Educational Associate 10-month at Highlandtown Elementary Middle School, be appointed Assistant Principal at Gardenville Elementary School, effective March 7th, 2026. We had a very short agenda tonight, so this concludes it, and congratulations to you both.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to both of you. Wonderful. Moving on, tonight, I am very pleased to recognize, celebrate an important accomplishment that could potentially benefit every member of the city schools team. For some time now, employees have requested a review of the available supplemental retirement plans to reduce high management fees, lack of flexibility, and below market returns on certain of the offerings within our providers. I want to thank all staff, all team members who flagged this issue, and we know that it was bumped up to be a priority for the district. And so last fall, the district initiated a thorough review of our supplemental retirement plans through the RFP process. A panel of city school staff, including representation from the BTU, Baltimore Teachers Union, and with the invaluable support of our consultants from Bolton USA, conducted a painstaking review of employees' 403B and 457B options, with the expressed goal of providing our employees with the best in-class options that could deliver higher returns, reduce fees, increase flexibility, and provide greater transparency in their financial planning. This was a long and intensive process, but a very important one for our employees and their long-term financial well-being. It's also complex and subject to misinformation and misrepresentation. Since I'm not that kind of financial expert, I'm another kind of financial expert. But since I'm not that kind of financial expert, we've invited Mike Bezkowski from Bolton, Chief Financial Officer Chris Doherty, Baltimore Teachers Union member Nathan Farrell, and Director of Employee Engagement, thank you, Zelda Johnson, to provide a high-level review of the RFP goals and results, as well as the process for employee information sessions, where and how to submit questions, and other highlights of this important financial opportunity for our employees. And I will invite the designees up to walk through a few slides and discuss the information sessions and Q&A.
Thank you, Dr. Santelises. As mentioned, I'm Chris Doherty, head of the finance office, joined by Zelda Johnson, head of employee engagement, Nathan Farrell, an officer with the Baltimore Teachers Union, and Mike Bezkowski, a consultant with Bolton who helped us with this process. So we are very pleased to be presenting this this evening. First, a word or two about what these plans are, just to solidify what they are and what they aren't. These supplemental retirement plans are in addition to our employees' primary required pension or retirement plans, hence the supplemental. So for teachers, of course, their main pension is with the Maryland State Pension and Retirement System. And for non-teacher employees, our pension plans are offered through the city of Baltimore, sometimes called hybrid, sometimes non-hybrid. And those are 401As, and they're mandatory, and they involve employer contributions. So those are the primary plans, and they're very, very important. But these are supplemental and voluntary plans that are also extremely important. They are tax advantaged, which is of course, a big advantage, whether you go with a traditional plan or a Roth plan. They are employer provided tax advantage plans that we encourage all of our employees to take advantage of. Done right, they can make a huge difference in an employee's quality of life in their retirement. And as Dr. Santelises said, after having a menu of options for many years of existing providers, we went through the very hard work of reviewing what was available, reviewing what was out there in the marketplace, and doing the RFP. Broadly stated, the previous plans were typical of the market, and they were largely insurance company products and annuities. And that was what the market was and had been for some time. Those products have a place in the financial landscape, but what we heard from our employees loud and clear was that they were more interested in what might be called, rather than annuity-based offerings, mutual fund-based offerings with low fees and higher returns and more portability. And that is what we have in the plan that we've chosen. So I'm going to go through a few of the main points very briefly, and then I'm going to turn it over to Nathan Farrell, who represents, after all, the single biggest category within our employees, our teachers, and he has a few remarks as well. He was shoulder to shoulder with us in the review process. This aims at board priority number 2. That is to say, we want to, if you can go to the next slide. I can't read it without my glasses, but I know from heart, priority 2 is the one where we want to be able to retain the highest quality staff and employees that we can. And a big part of that is having as attractive a compensation package as we can, and having a best-in-class supplemental retirement plan is part of that. So this is aimed at board strategic priority number 2. So the next slide starts to say, put a little bit more meat in the bones. We have estimated, now there are the current providers, there are 10 providers of 403Bs, and I think 8 for 457Bs. So it's hard to generalize across 10 different companies and many different plans, but we amalgamated the fees, and we are conservatively expecting that the fees that will be realized by participants of the new plan will go down by about 90%. So that's what's aimed at the low fee aspect. And we're also, importantly, annuities are a different product. So higher fees are more common with annuities, and whereas for mutual funds and especially index funds, which our new offering has a wide range of, and not just in school environments or education environments, investors are really moving towards the lower fee index funds, ETFs, and the like. And the older set of offerings did not match that. The next one is that we wanted more transparency. As a participant, as well as someone who reviewed this, it is often not just difficult, but impossible to determine how much of your money you were spending in fees. Now, if fees are higher than market or lower than market, you should at least know what your fees are. And across multiple of the previous vendors, our colleagues could not get solid answers to how much they were paying in fees. So one of the defining characteristics of our new plan is it's going to be right there in front of you with every statement. Here's how much money is in your account. Here's what you spent in fees. The streamlined investing is there still will be, even though this is called a single vendor solution as opposed to our 10 vendors before, there still is a wide variety of choice. So there are 17 different plans plus a target date plan. And very briefly, a target date plan is a plan that changes with the individual. If you're 20, my daughter's a teacher in our system, she's 25, her investment choices are going to be different from her dad, who's not 25. And so, but she could pick a target date fund and estimate when she's going to retire, and she could set it and forget it if she wanted to. So in addition to the 17 different offerings, the new provider, Corebridge, also has a target based fund, which a lot of people opt into because because it's a popular option. Also, the products that will be provided, it's not Corebridge 1, Corebridge 2, Corebridge 3. The entities that are providing these financial products are Fidelity and BlackRock and JP Morgan and American funds. So they're market funds that you could get yourself. They're out there. Only through the power of having this many employees and going through Corebridge, we have rock bottom fees to get into these products. One quick word about what it means to save a percentage point in fees. The size of our plan is such that if we save a percent in fees for our employees, that's several $1 million per year. So several million more dollars are in our and our colleagues' accounts growing that aren't going into management fees, because there are two different kinds of fees, management fees and administrative fees, and both of those come down about 90%. Surrender charges. You may have heard from your communities and your friends and colleagues about surrender charges. Surrender charges are something that are much more common with annuities and not common at all with mutual funds. The idea being that if you want to leave your annuity program, you might find out in the small print that you have to wait a few more years or several years because the insurance company essentially front-loaded costs in you, and they did certain things thinking you'd be a 30-year customer, and you have a rude awakening that you have to pay a significant amount of your money to take your money and go somewhere else. That really rankled a lot of people. And that's a characteristic not just of the vendors that we have, but of annuities in general. With this mutual fund-based approach, there are no surrender charges. So that's that. One other comment on the surrender charges is because we're moving to Corebridge, anyone now, like myself and like many other people who have surrender charges, the new vendor is going to pay those surrender charges. So the employee will be made whole when he or she decides, she doesn't have to, but when he or she decides to migrate over to the new provider, if her statement says she needs to pay $4,200 to move, Corebridge will pay that. That's a big deal, and that was a big part of our RFP. Can you go to the next one? I think one last thing, and then I'll pass it over to Nathan. The previous incentive structure, again, across companies, not all these companies were the same at all. They were varied, but across the current providers, there were many of those providers who worked entirely on commission. So when a teacher on a Saturday morning called and checked on her investments and would get advice, she was getting advice from people who made money when they sold her something new. And in general, that incentive structure is good for the salesperson and not as good for the investor. When we made note of that, so the Corebridge setup is that nobody works on commission, everyone works on salary. They don't get any more or any less if you jumped to a different product or stayed put or any other combination of that. And one last comment before I pass it to Nathan is we're going to really have a blitz of information to our employees because people don't have to move if they don't want to. At the same time, the new employer-provided program will be through Corebridge. So we really want to give everyone as many chances as possible to know what their options are. So there's going to be a campaign to educate all of us about what these things are and how we can take advantage of them. And most of us are too busy doing our jobs to know all these details. So we factored that into our choice. And Corebridge has assured us in writing and directly that they're very good at getting teachers and educators to sign up for their program. So for all those reasons, we're quite bullish about where we are right now. And now to Nathan Farrell.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Commissioners, for hearing us. I started teaching in 2007 in Howard County Public Schools. Throughout my tenure there, it was known we had a bad setup. It was a multi-vendor plan. It still is. We fought for reform 2012, 13, 14, 15. Then my union president, Paul Lemley, who is now the Maryland State Educator Association president, fought hard. This is an issue that affects working educators in the state of Maryland, the entire state. Some counties have gone to single vendor earlier, and some are fighting it now. And this board should be proud that it is one of the leading counties to make this switch. I was with the president last night, Paul Lemley. This is still a high priority for multiple counties around the state. And it is important that we have a board that understands the enormity of this and the benefit to our members. My day-to-day, I'm in schools pretty much every day. I lead what's called the BTU's Care Bear Tour. I actually invite every single one of you commissioners to come with us on a Care Bear Tour. Today, the Care Bear Tour was at Lakeland Elementary, supported 24 plus educators directly. And one of the things we do is we log into their Maryland State Pension Portal. We log directly into their pension portal. If they've not accessed it before, we gain access for them, and we run an estimate of what is going to be your monthly payment based on your pension. Some of them are in the Baltimore City Employee Retirement System, some are in the Maryland State Employee Retirement System. I sit with dozens and dozens of working people every week who see for the first time what that monthly check is going to be like. And it is not enough. Our pensions are generous, our pensions are amazing, and in this modern age, they are not the norm. But it is not enough. Supplemental retirement is a necessary thing to make sure people can retire in dignity and pay their bills. The backstory for where this came from, right? The reform was, it's from lived experience of members. This isn't a bunch of wonks who sat around and said, oh my goodness, what about index funds and lower fees? No, it was working people saying, this person harasses me in my lounge. I told my principal, I don't want them here. They keep on coming. It was, I have to call them to be able to stop or change my salary reduction. They said I have to, when in fact they don't have to. They could do it themselves independently via a third-party website. It was people making threats. If you leave, I'm going to take surrender fees. You can't leave. It was people not disclosing fees. Frankly, it was Security and Exchange Commission lawsuits against some of these vendors. This is lived experience by our members that pushed this. And so that's where this has come from. The procurement process was incredibly informative, and I was super grateful to be a part of it. And I really want to lift up the work of the procurement team. Shabray Matthews did an incredible job. All the chiefs who had to clear their calendars. Friday afternoon meetings, I guess the only time everybody has is Friday at 5, and they made time for it. So thank you to all the chiefs who made that happen. And it started with reviewing technical proposals. We reviewed probably 5,000 plus pages in technical proposals. Okay, this has not just been a slide deck situation where, what are they saying? Sounds good. We went into the weeds on this. We questioned one another. We asked questions. We held meetings, second meetings. When will this happen? What's the next step? When is the report being done? What's happening here? Why does this say this? We met with all the vendors who offered the plan. We reviewed this extensively. What we are getting is a foundational change, not just better investment products. Members are saving money on fees, and we are getting fiduciary oversight. We are getting fiduciary oversight and engagement in the long term with a committee made up of stakeholders to make sure that the plan stays as good as we think we have negotiated for this plan to be. And there was negotiations. We went back on the best and final offer. And I think this team did an incredible job with getting, he said it, rock bottom prices. There is a lot of work to do. There is a tremendous amount of distrust. One of the things that prevent members from doing supplemental retirements with their employer is they don't trust the plan providers right now, or they've been burned. I used to contribute, and then X, Y, and Z harm happened to me, and I stopped. When an employer has large swaths of employees who stop contributing to their supplemental retirement plans, that is a bad thing. We have to do the public education campaign, the trust building campaign, to make sure that folks understand how good this situation is and to encourage folks to continue to save for a retirement with dignity. The Baltimore Teachers Union stands by as a resource. Ideally, we'll have these folks setting up shop at our union hall, have open office hours, whatever. It would be great if they could have open office hours here at North Avenue to support the hundreds of staff who work here in all bargaining units, from Pizzazza to Cub to our local 44 siblings, right? We want everybody, to our FOP siblings, we want everybody to have access to the information, education, and making sure we have a smooth transition from legacy vendors to the new vendors. And let's get those surrender fees paid and made people whole in the new plan. And we're excited about that. So thank you all.
And that concludes our presentation.
Nicely done. Just really want to thank the full team for the work that has been done. I know the Chief of Staff wanted to add some commentary. Could you?
Yes, I just wanted to add my huge appreciation to the team for doing this work, and huge appreciation to the BTU for raising this issue, and to you, Colin, for being part of it. You guys really pushed it, and it's something that we've been trying to work on for a long time. So, but your push kind of helped get it across the finish line. So appreciate that. And this is something that is so important, and I love your passion about it, and definitely will need your partnership to make sure that we really do get employees to make this switch, because it is in their best interest. All of our employees should be making this switch, and so we'll really need to support to make sure that happens. And look forward to partnering with unions to do that. But this is one of the things that I think Sonia and I will be, one of many things, but it's something we'll be proud of, that we got across the finish line before we left, because it is that important. This is a monumental achievement. So thank you.
Well said. I don't really have much to say after Chief Perkins Cohen, but it really, it is, I agree with her. It is so nice to know that after all this time, we are in this place. And I do think the same collaboration that got us to this point, really, it is in education. And I was sitting here as you all were talking, and I was thinking how powerful it would be, even for our young people upon graduation, to understand what they should be looking for, what it means to have, supplemental investment. They should leave school knowing that, so that the same kind of uproar that, frankly, again, through BTU and a number of our teachers and staff had was really the driving force. So I will just add many thanks for the work. And I agree with Allison. It's one of those, there's many things still left to do, but that's one where I feel like I can breathe a little easier knowing that it's done. So thank you all. Thank you. And then finally, tonight, we are going to hear a presentation that I've asked the board to acknowledge, the request of the New Song Community Learning Center, Inc., to terminate its contract with city schools to operate New Song Academy at the end of the year. While an action by the board is not required, I do feel it's important for the public and the record that staff shares the concerns and challenges that led to the decision. I want the staff, families, and students of New Song Academy to know that we are unhappy with this outcome. City Schools has taken on significant unplanned expenses necessary to keep the school operating until the end of the year. We are doing everything we can to ensure that the school has a successful remainder of the year, and we will continue to provide support and updates. That concludes my remarks for this evening. I will turn it back to you, Chair.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Dr. Santelises. Especially hearing more about just the work done on retirement contributions is really important. So thank you. And for your leadership on that. I'll now review the consent agenda. Board colleagues, please let me know if you'd like an item removed, and please state your question for staff. Yes, sir.
There was a comment I needed to make.
Please, before I get to consent.
Thank you. First of all, for the retirement presentation, I wanted to thank that team. I'm a man who's approaching retirement, but also you took a tiger by the tail and you wrestled it to the ground. And also the thing is that you also proved the point that when we come together, we can go a whole lot further. And you did prove that point. So I really want to put my thanks and my congratulations out there for the fine work that you've done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Those comments are really well needed and appreciate it. Thank you so much. On to the consent agenda. Board colleagues, please let me know if there's any item that you would like pulled for consent. So 8.01 is New Song Community Learning Center, acknowledgement of the termination. We are going to pull that for a presentation this evening. 8.02 Cub Agreement. 8.03 Gifts and Donations. 14.01 CDW Government LLC. 14.02 Splash Business Intelligence. 15.01 St. Mary's Roofing and Home Improvement LLC. 15.02 Fire and Water Cleanup and Restoration Services.
Please, I'd like to pull that, please.
We'll pull that for question. Can I get your questions that you may have?
Sure. Supplemental support and this this large increase. I just wanted clarification as whether there were supplemental supports.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Mohammed?
You add a list of projects that created this cause, understanding of the root causes versus whether we're paying for consequences of not having the funding around continued maintenance.
Okay, we'll see if this can be accomplished tonight. If in the event that that information is not available, we may need to take a separate action related to 15.02 that may be beyond what the staff can provide this evening. 15.03 School Office Furniture and Equipment. I'm sorry, is there an additional pull for? Commissioner, can you?
I was just being a little clear about 15.2 and it's about the increase over the 5 years, correct?
Yes, yes, it's the major increase. And Chair, so you know, some of these concerns should be made available to us as they came up in committee.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much. 15.03 School Office Furniture and Equipment. 16.01 Corbridge Financial. All right, I'm going to now move to the Vice Chair to lead us through public comment this evening.
Good evening, everyone. We will now move to public comment. Public comment is shared by our district recognized groups and the general public. Representatives from our recognized groups will have the opportunity to share with the public comments first for 5 minutes each. Afterwards, the general public may share. First, we'll have President Diamante Brown representing Baltimore Teachers Union.
Good evening, everyone. I want to talk about two things. One thing is Senate Bill 554, and the other thing is about more planning time. Senate Bill 554 is a piece of legislation that seeks to remove the community panel from the school board selection process. Baltimore Teachers Union is opposed to Senate Bill 554. We've given oral testimony. We've been lobbying we attempted to lobby our Baltimore Senate delegation to oppose the bill and also ask Senator Hayes to withdraw it. Unfortunately, our Senate delegation decided to move forward with it. Our Senate delegation consists of Senate President Ferguson, Senator Attar, Senator Hayes, Senator McCray, and Senator Washington. Four of these senators, Attar, Hayes, McCray, and Washington, attended the hearing to vote for Senate Bill 554 to move through, which is very harmful because now that it's going to the committee, which will be the Education, Environment, and Energy Committee, Triple E. Committee members are very inclined to listen to what a certain jurisdiction's delegation believes about a bill. One of the things that I heard Senator Hayes say when he was asked what is the board's position was that, well, they knew about it. So what BTU is asking is that the school board takes a formal position to oppose Senate Bill 554. What the senator wants to do is replace the community panel, which consists of directly impacted individuals. We have the Baltimore Teachers Union on a community panel. We have the Special Education Community Advisory Committee. We have PTA. We have the Parent Community Advisory Board, Fund for Educational Excellence, the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Services, the Associated Student Congress of Baltimore City, ACLU, Disability Rights Maryland, the Downtown Baltimore Family Alliance, Pizzazza. They want to replace all of us with these 5 people that I just expressed to you. In a time like this, and honestly, in any time, we should not be taking away community voice. We should be adding to it. So we hope that you support opposing this policy. And the way that you can oppose it is that you need to call the members of Triple E, that committee, to tell them to please vote no. And Senator Washington is one of the members of that committee. We've spoken to some of the senators, and some of them are remorseful for how they voted. So there is an opportunity to change their minds. And we are asking you to submit written testimony and come in person to give in-person testimony. The hearing will be on March 11th. We would also, at 1 p.m. We are also asking for you for collaboration on more planning time. Currently, we do not have enough planning time for teacher chapter members. Our planning time is being taken for several reasons. Sometimes it's to provide class coverage. Sometimes it's to support IEP meetings. Sometimes it is being taken away because we're focusing on duplicative administrative tasks. What we want to focus on during our planning period is data input, grade input, calling home, interventions, lesson planning. And we can't do all of that if our planning periods are being taken. What we think is that we should have a planning period every day, and that collaborative planning, which we also think is important, should happen in addition to. But currently what happens is that if we have 5 planning periods a day, one of those planning periods are taken away to do collaborative planning. But collaborative planning is not as productive when everyone's stressed. They didn't get to finish their work that they needed to do. Now they're trying to listen to the administrator talk about what they want to do. It is just one of the number one issues that the BTU membership is reporting as a poor working condition. And we want to make certain that we're focusing on fair wages for our workers, but we need to pair that with adequate working conditions. And so we're asking for more planning time. We think our students deserve that we have more planning time because that time is for us to plan for them. So we look forward to collaboration on
getting us more individualized planning time. Have a great night.
Thank you, President Brown. Next, we will have Monica Ogonika. I pray that I pronounced that right. If not, please accept my apologies. The chair of PCAP, and Monica will appear by video. All right, while we're getting the video together, I'm gonna go ahead and bring up Ms. Billups, who is the chair of CCAT.
Good evening, everyone. Special greetings to Dr. Santa Lisa and the board, those in the room and those are virtual. I'm glad to be here this evening. I have some terrific news about our transition team that's on the special education department. They are having a transition expo that will be held April the 23rd. It's a Thursday from 9:30 to 1 p.m. and it's going to be at the War Memorial. Anybody that needs to find out information about their children transitioning out of school, you need to come. It's going to be a lot of great information and vendors there. Also, I come to talk about our monthly meeting, which is on March the 9th, next Monday, and we are held in room 301 on the third floor. Our speakers for that evening will be a lawyer from Maryland Volunteer Law Services. She's coming, her name is Peyton Aldrich, Esquire. She's coming to talk to the students as well as their parents about any information that's needed to move forward in any legal process for children with disabilities. Also, we have Baltimore Recreation and Parks, Miss Olivia Miller. She's a therapeutic recreation program manager. She's coming to talk about the different types of information she has for children that has disabilities that want to be in a program throughout the summer. Also, we have our overview of our ESY program, Extended School Services, Special Ed Services. Will be Dr. I don't want to call her Dr. Greta Cephas. She's going to talk about the extended learning services, not just about ESY, but there's other programs that there's able to be a part of that's not actually school place or dealing with an IEP or goals. There's other things that they can do throughout the summer that will increase their learning and their exposure socially and communicatively. Also, I want to remind you all, I come every year to talk about the MSD survey for children receiving special ed services. That's totally different from the other surveys that's coming out. So make sure you look at that survey good, because it's very important. It's driven, it's data driven, how we support the children receiving specialized services. It will be come out sometime in March and it ends May 30th. You have a long time to plan. So each time I come, I'm going to mention that survey. It's very imperative that all parents that have children receiving specialized services fill out that survey. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Thursday, April the 23rd, 9:30 to 1 p.m. It's early news, but it'll be on the website soon. I'm just putting it out there for you to know now. Okay? Thank you.
So much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Sally and Vice Chair Parker, and esteemed Board of Commissioners, Dr. Santelises, and members of the community. My name is Monica Gunica, a first-year board member of the Parent and Community Advisory Board. I serve as a PCAP Policy Committee member, and I was appointed by the PTA to serve. On behalf of our members, I thank you for the opportunity to provide an update. I am here to publicly state our fierce opposition to Senate Bill 0554. As you are aware, this legislation proposes the complete elimination of the Baltimore City Public School Board Community Panel. Currently, this panel guarantees that parents, students, educators, and community advocates have a mandated seat at the table to vet and recommend qualified candidates for this very board. SB 0554 strips away that local grassroots vetting. Instead, it introduces a new mandate requiring that the mayor's appointments be confirmed by the Senate of Maryland. This creates an unprecedented and unfair double standard. No other school district in Maryland has to ask state politicians to confirm its local school board appointments. True equity means trusting the families who actually have children in these classrooms to vet their own leaders. Shifting accountability away from Baltimore City families and into the hands of state legislatures undermines our local governance. We ask for your continued, loud, and public partnership as we fight this bill in Annapolis. But we can't do this alone. To every parent, student, educator, and community member watching this meeting tonight, we urgently need your help. Please reach out to your state senators and delegates immediately. Tell them to protect our local voice and vote no on Senate Bill 0554. We must protect our seat at the table together. Our next public meeting will take place on March 19th at 6:30 p.m. and will be live streamed on YouTube. At this meeting, we are looking forward to presentations on attendance and updates on the school leader process. We invite all families, educators, and community members to join us. Thank you for your time.
I'll now turn it over to our board executive.
Good evening, everyone. We have 5 signed up for testimony tonight. I'll start with the 2 written comments, and we'll jump into the 3 in person. The first written comment was provided by Amanda Darby, an educator from Dunbar High School. Dear school board members, I'm writing to offer public comment regarding student and staff safety within Baltimore City Public Schools. Specifically, I would urge the district to adopt a nationally recognized emergency response protocol, such as the I Love You Guys Foundation Standard Response Protocol. Presently, Baltimore City Schools does not have a nationally recognized research-based emergency response framework in place. Meanwhile, neighboring districts like Baltimore County Public Schools has recently adopted the I Love You Guys Standard Response Protocol. This protocol was developed in collaboration with law enforcement and safety professionals and provides a clear, unified, and highly detailed approach to emergency situations. The Standard Response Protocol establishes a consistent, easily understood action for 5 critical responses: lockdown, evacuation, hold, secure, and shelter. Its strength lies not only in the clarity of these directives, but also in the common language it creates across schools, first responders, and the broader community. In moments of crisis and consistency, simplicity saves time, and time saves lives. I fully recognize the significant budgetary constraints facing city schools. However, the I Love You Guys Foundation demonstrated a commitment to accessibility and equity in school safety. The foundation partners with security systems and other organizations to help provide support when financial barriers exist. Costs should not prevent our district from implementing a comprehensive, nationally recognized safety framework. Maximizing students' safety requires more than routine drills. It requires a thoroughly researched, coordinated, and standardized plan. The Standard Response Protocol goes beyond basic procedures by creating alignment between school personnel and emergency responders, reducing confusion and minimizing risk during critical incidents. Our students and educators deserve the highest level of protection that we can reasonably provide. I respectfully ask the board to prioritize the adoption of a standard response protocol so that Baltimore City Schools can align with national best practices and provide a clear, unified emergency response plan for every school in the district. Thank you for your time. The second public comment is from Kristen Harrison. Good evening. My name is Kristen Harrison. I'm a proud alumna of Northern High School and a member of the Northern Vikings Alumni Association. Since our initial presentation to this board in September 2025, the Northern Vikings Alumni Association has maintained a consistent and active partnership within the school community currently housed in this historic building. Our alumni support has included food distribution initiatives, Thanksgiving turkey baskets for families, toiletries and hygiene items, attendance initiatives for students, and financial contributions to student-led efforts. We have donated meals for school events and are committed to providing staff appreciation meals during Teacher Appreciation Week. Additionally, we are preparing to award a scholarship at the end of this academic year. Beyond financial and material contributions, our engagement has been programmatic and ongoing. Alumni currently facilitate the weekly girls mentoring groups within the building. We host monthly cuts and conversations sessions for our young men focused on leadership and mentorship. We are organizing a girls' tea with a panel discussion designed to empower and educate students. Alumni have also supported student programming and attended school functions. Our executive board members consistently attend steering committee meetings, budget meetings, school family council meetings, and other governance-related gatherings, dedicating countless volunteer hours in support of students and school collaboration. Our presence is sustained, structured, and rooted in partnership. We submit this documentation to ensure that our ongoing investment and engagement are formally recognized as part of the broader discussion regarding the campus and its future direction. We remain committed partners in the success of the school and its students. Thank you. In person, we have Eric Dawson. And a reminder, as we get into live commentary, I will be setting a timer for 3 minutes. As we approach 3 minutes, I'll let you know, and if you could please wrap up at that point. Thank you.
Y'all can hear me? We good? All right. Good evening, Chair, CEO, and members of the board. Everybody doing good? Great. All right. My name is Eric Dawson, and I'm a proud graduate of Northern High School and a representative of Northern Vikings Alumni Association. It's like you read from Miss Kristen, right? Accompanied with me is Miss Megan, also alumni, and a part of the executive board. We, the alumni, begin by expressing our respect for Dr. Reginald F. Lewis and the importance of his legacy. Our advocacy is not rooted in opposition, but in preservation, partnership, and institutional continuity. The building that houses the current school carries generations of history under the Northern High School name. For many alumni and community members, that identity represents decades of academic achievement, civic contribution, and community pride. We respectfully request 3 considerations. First, that the alumni partnership be formally incorporated into the adversary or engagement structure impacting decisions related to the historic campus. Given our sustained investment and consistent presence, we believe meaningful inclusion strengthens long-term stability. Second, the historic identity of Northern High School will be formally preserved within the campus designation. Honoring both historic legacy and present excellence does not divide, it unifies generations. Third, one potential model to achieve that balance may include a unified name structure reflecting both Reginald F. Lewis and the historic Northern Campus. We offer this as a collaborative solution, not a demand. For context, we have included the publicly distributed flyer outlining the combined school family community council meeting and public forum scheduled at 4:00 p.m. as we believe decisions of this magnitude benefit from engagement structures that maximize equitable participation for working alumni and broader community stakeholders. Additionally, as the voting process is developed, we respectfully encourage that the timing, access, and structure of that process allow equitable participation for students, staff, alumni, and community stakeholders. When broad engagement is invited, the opportunity to participate should be structured in a way that is accessible and convenient to those who can and cannot attend in person. Our request is grounded in partnership, respect, and continuity. We remain committed to supporting the students and staff to this school for years to come. The alumni thanks you for your time, your consideration, and we thank you for all your hard work. And we asking, can we give hard copies of our outline? All right, we appreciate you guys. Man, thank you.
Good evening. Before my 3 minutes start, I just want to ask Dr. Santulisa. I know you said that the contract is terminated for New Song Academy. Is that at the end of the school year, or you're saying right now, this minute? Oh, okay. Okay, you can stop. So to the chair, co-chair, Dr. Santulisa, and the members of the Board of School Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity to speak. The New Song Steering Committee is grateful that you are allowing New Song Academy to finish out the 2025-2026 school year, which for us, our calendar year, ends in July. We have had a long-standing relationship, not only with Baltimore City Public School, but also the community at large. We plan to have a grand celebration for the 30 years that New Song has been in existence. We were able to place our students in and around our city, state, and nation with the assistance from great teachers and staff, college professors, teachers, preachers, financiers, medical students, even first-time college students that left New Song Academy. We have a lot to be proud of and thankful for. Our team is still working hard to reestablish what was and is the New Song way. Since our last meeting, New Song has been like an onion. The more our team peeled back, the more we found what went wrong. Unfortunately, the time constraints put upon the community has not worked out in alignment with the board's expectations. New Song was given a renewal and later it was rescinded, and we understand that the contract being terminated. The team was told back in December New Song would be closing at the end of the 2026 school year. Although a letter that went out recently said at the request of the operator, which parents and students have yet to meet this operator. When I stepped down as executive director in 2017, funding was tight but doable. My accountability supervisor at the time for Baltimore City Public Schools was Miss Sonia Goodwin, and she kept me close. She kept the connections close, and she taught me as to how things needed to go and what, if ever, I needed help. Maybe that was the old way of doing things, but it worked, and it kept everyone honest and accountable. With that said, the governance and financial viability of any charter school needs that same attention offered to me back in 2017 and throughout any given school year if remaining charter schools are to succeed. So I end my comments by saying trust, transparency, and working together so that our students in Baltimore City, not just New Song students, can thrive and be the very best life has to offer them. Again, thank you.
See this evening. Duration. I'll now return to the consent agenda. There's that. Actually, before we proceed, are there any additional items that board colleagues would like consideration? Hearing none, I'd like to invite Office of New Initiatives and Angela Alvarez up for a presentation on New Song Community Learning Center.
Good evening. I'm Angela Alvarez, the Senior Executive Director of the Office of New Initiatives, and I'm joined
by Kendra Banks, Manager in the Office of New Initiatives.
and Kendra is just pulling up the presentation.
Kendra, if you're unable to upload, email it to Tanisha and she can share it from the office.
Okay. Yeah, it kicked me out of Outlook and Teams.
While she's doing that, just a little bit in a preamble, just because there was also public comment around New Song. And so as shared in that public comment, in October, the operating organization let us know that we had concerns around the missing some of the requirements. We're going to go into it explicitly here tonight to be on the record for the public. We had been having some concerns because they were missing some of the requirements around the conditional renewal. And at that time, they let us know that they were not going to be able to fulfill the contract and that, it needed to terminate at the end of the year. And so tonight, what we're sharing with the board is to serve two purposes. Is one, to just have an acknowledgement of that termination in a public way for members of the community to kind of hear exactly what was happening with New Song, and to preserve our ability to have a record for any kind of further actions that are necessary around some of the fallout from that those challenges.
I sent it to Tanisha.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Wrong presentation. So we have two tonight. That's the other one, Tanisha. Sorry. The one for New Song. The mutual acknowledgement. There we go. That looks right. Yep. All right. Yep. And we go to the next slide. This is aligned best to priority 5 around equitable access. And so part of what we're doing is trying to make sure that students are still receiving stability and their quality of education. And so we feel like that was the best strategic priority. You can go to the next one. Is there a way to make it bigger? Can you full screen it, Tanisha? I don't know if people in the public can view this. Okay. There should be a way to show it in full
Because
screen.
it's the PDF, Angela, I don't have the presentation.
Oh.
Is this big enough? Just let me know. I'll keep enlarging.
Okay. Yep. No, go back to where you were. Let's roll with that, and then we'll just keep it going.
Okay.
So I kind of talked a little bit about this. We want to be on the record and public about it. This is not a required action or a necessary action. So an operator can terminate the contract. We can't force them to be in contract with us. But we felt it was necessary to do given the circumstances. Can you go to the next slide? No. Kendra, do you want to talk through this? Or?
So the school overview and history, New Song has an enrollment of 158 students, and the grades that are served are pre-K through 8th grade. The operator is New Song Community Learning Center, Inc. And the school has served the Sandtown Winchester community since 1997. They were originally established as a community-centered new school initiative and later transitioned to operate under a charter agreement in July 2020. It's located in a privately owned facility controlled by the charter operator, and they have maintained a longstanding presence in the community. And as Ms. Harris has shared, they have wonderful alumni and families spanning multiple generations. They are also run by New Song Community Learning Center, Inc., and they are accountable for meeting academic, financial management, governance, and operational standards outlined in their charter. And they are the most recent contract included conditions because they went through renewal 3 years ago. Their most recent contract held conditions due to serious financial and operational concerns that were expressed in those conditions. And the school was not able to meet those conditions regardless of the support and continuous oversight that was provided to the charter. So in October 2025, the New Song Community Learning Center, Inc. informed city schools, the board members that were remaining at that time, informed Baltimore City that they wanted to terminate the charter. And the instability continued to grow at that time from actually the spring on until even though we had conversations on a regular basis. And so the formal letter was actually submitted in January of 2026. So the district has worked with the remaining individual who is acting on behalf of the organization to stay in its current location and, close out in an honorable way at the end of the school year.
Just to clarify, Kendra, you spoke slightly. They went through renewal last year, so they were at the beginning of a 3-year contract. So this is the recent contract. Nope, it's okay. And we go to the next slide. Just for members of the public, the conditions that were outlined, like we discovered there were some serious financial challenges went through that review process. And so it required sort of 5 conditions in addition to the regular things that are part of the contract. And so one of the things we wanted to see was improved financial capacity through either expansion or some way of having a sustainable recurring funding source that would result in the ability of the organization to fulfill all of its fiscal responsibilities. We required a more deeper additional audit reviews and the requirement that they would meet expectations for each subsequent audit reviews, that they would be able to fulfill and demonstrate they met all COMAR and state requirements for staffing, and then identification and securing a facility or comprehensive space plan to meet additional needs. They're housed in a very small building, which keeps their size pretty small. As Kendra shared, the size of the school is a size that we consider undersized. Any school that's under 300, we consider undersized school. And then they were to develop a comprehensive plan to improve the capacity and the effectiveness of teachers and academic leaders in the building. So those were, and some professional development. So those were the kind of 5 key things that came as part of the renewal that we had last January, the decision made last January, and January of 2025. So not this recent beginning of the year. You can get to the next slide. And so some of the things that we discovered, and quite frankly, and just transparently in this group with the board, I think there was a lot of things that the board, who are not responsible for the day-to-day, did not know about the organization that we expected them to know, and they did not know. And so meeting with them, we were discovering a lot of issues together. And some of those include like some deeper kind of understanding of the degree of financial instability. And so we learned about together unpaid utilities bills, including for BG&E and water bills, were multiple instances where those services were threatened to be turned off. We learned about over 153,000 in outstanding vendor invoices for critical services like custodial services, facility needs, other contracted services. We learned about lapsed, unpaid insurance obligations, and not listed on the slide. We also learned about like the staff of the organization not being consistently paid, their benefits lapsing. So there's a number of kind of operational issues. There was incomplete and missing financial documentation. And so, part of that review was requiring submission of documents. And we were, oh, it's coming, it's coming. That's what prompted us to start meeting with the board because it never arrived. And we learned there was not real solid record keeping, that their accountant, because of being unpaid, had stopped working for the institution in last school year. And then they weren't really maintaining strong records, which goes into this lack of internal controls and cash flow. There was definitely no evidence of sufficient cash reserves on hand just to manage monthly expenses of the school. I'm going to have Kendra talk through the governance instability that we learned about.
Sure. So the board capacity had reduced from 7 when we first started discussing it with the executive director at the time. It reduced from 7 as of May 2025 to 3 as of August 2025 to a single remaining member as of November 2025. The organization lacked oversight and quorum. We were only able to meet with the 3 that existed last fall. And then after the resignation of members, we were down to 1. There was an inability to demonstrate organizational capacity to continue managing the operating organization. And with that, we decided that it is a serious concern and moved forward with conversations with the individual about what the result was going to be of the charter.
And there were facility and operational challenges. So aging HVAC system, a risk of failure. We learned the roof had issues and we're told that it was needing replacement. There was also a lack of ownership or responsibility for building maintenance. So one of the first checks we do with schools was around school readiness. They were put on notice that more needed to be done to clean the school. The new song ends later in the year in July. I mean, it also starts later in the school year. So all of our schools started in August. New song starts about a week later behind that schedule. And the facility was not really ready for students or staff. We had to actually delay the opening. And as a district, this is before we even got to a point of saying this isn't working. We called one of our vendors to actually go in and to properly clean the school and deal with significant plumbing challenges that were in the building in order for it to be a space that children and staff should be in. The contract for those services was also not appropriate for the size square footage. Like, we have budget guidance that are clear about what you need to actually properly clean a facility so that you're maintaining a certain level of health and safety within the building. And so those kinds of issues were not being met. You can go to the next slide. They were not able to meet the submitting an approvable financial plan to deal with the real challenges. There was not a real strategy to fundraise or to deal with any of the gaps that they already knew that they had in their funding. And there was not, again, there wasn't sound management of grants and meeting grant requirements. So these were kind of the issues that we were seeing, and the members of the board who were like, we don't really know how to solve this. We don't know what to do to fix this. And so we can't see continuing past this year. So these are all the things that led us to this place. You can go to the next slide. And so the charter agreement allows for operators to terminate a contract with Section B at any point, as long as we are notified by January 1 of their inability to fulfill a contract. So to be very clear for members of the public, this is not an outcome that City Schools has wanted. We renewed them, I think, because of the things like that Ms. Harris talked about. This has been a very small school for a very long time and had operated soundly for a really long time. And it's that history and that legacy of the school, being, over 30 years old, that went into, despite the real risks that we knew were associated with renewing the agreement, with the hopes that that organization would have the wherewithal to do the work that was necessary to meet the conditions and to stabilize what was happening at the school. You can go to the next slide. And then we're just going to talk a little bit about how we're supporting community and the operator throughout the year. There is a month-by-month plan, and we had a meeting last week. I'm going to have, we're sharing it at a high level for the purpose of this meeting. I'm just going to have Kendra share what that looks like. So we're on the record about those things.
Okay, for our students, we will be providing placement assistance for the next school year, supporting with students with disabilities and IEP continuity and counseling and student support services, and coordinating with enrollment choice and transfer team to make sure that students are placed properly. For families, dedicated transition meetings, and as Angela just said, we had one just last week, enrollment guidance and school selection support, and ongoing communication points of contact to keep them in the loop as we progress through this process. Staff, human capital support for job placement. We also had a meeting last week, and the assistance with applications through the application tracking system and what that procedure looks like. Regular on-site human capital presence and partner support, and staff meetings to address questions and timelines. And lastly, for the operator, district assumed the operator facility expenses from December until their closing in July, and will be supporting them until August 2026. We have been having regular check-ins with the remaining board member, and facility and utility support, along with management of school day-to-day operations and a structured closeout process that has been shared with the operator, as well as all that are involved in the process.
And so there's a mini fair coming up for students and families, a mini choice fair for them in mid-March. Those dates have already been shared. We'll do reminders as we get closer to the date. For staff, we will, staff that are displaced when a school is closing, they get priority placement. So the first thing they do is a survey about like what they're interested in terms of what side of town, that kind of thing. So there's kind of a individualized support. So we start with a meeting around what the year looks like. And there's engagement sessions that they'll be invited to meet principals and learn about openings. And then HC has twice a month meetings, office hours for them, for staff to ask specific questions. And then my team also supports with allowing staff to be able to visit other schools during the day and covering those classes so that they can, make informed decisions about where they're interested in next year. We already know we've had some conversations with some of the schools that are participating in the mini fair who are very interested in the staff. And so all of that is kind of going, it's on its way. The other thing I also want to point out about the support for the school, the district is taking on costs that we didn't budget for because the operators and inability to meet their things. So the district is now paying for the utilities of that building. We are now ensuring that the building gets repaired, that the trash gets picked up. Like, we are taking on significant operational costs so that staff and students can remain in a stable environment through the end of the year. With that, we are going to go to the next slide and just have we're recommending the board do what we're calling an acknowledgement of the termination of the New Song Community Learning Center, Inc.'s contract effective July 30, 2026. We have no intention on, outside of any kind of unforeseen circumstance, of moving students or staff. They're remaining in the building. This is just to acknowledge officially on the record the termination of this agreement. This is the same information we've shared, but we wanted to be really clear about, more explicit about some of the issues we've been seeing at the school that led us to this point.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So if there are any questions or comments from board colleagues, we'll entertain those before the team departs.
Thank you very much. A lot of moving pieces that we have to put into play at this point in time. But the battle in public education is taken on by a lot of people. And at times, sometimes those comrades in arms don't make it through the battle. And whatever has occurred, we still take our hat off for the work that was done. We take our hat off for those who have prospered. We take our hat off for those who have succeeded in that past. And yet you may not stand with that colleague at the other end of the battle. That they were there with you helps you move forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there any additional comments or questions this evening on New Song? With that, I want to thank the team, and we'll place the item back inside of the consent agenda for the evening. Thank you so much. We're now going to move to item number 15.02 and invite the team up regarding fire and water cleanup and restoration services. So, I'm going to start with Commissioner Kenyatta Bay and his questions for you.
Oh, there you are. Yes. The question that I had was that, yes, I understand, and please, you probably want to go in for the public, the details of why this has occurred, what is the problem we ran into. But my main question is supplemental supports, because I'm looking at a contract that is I see legacy investment in, but it's growing, doubling. And so I want to make sure that we have safeguards in place for types of instances like this. Where's our insurance here, and how much of that mitigates the cost that we're facing now? And that's my question.
Sure. And I'm Chris Roberts, Director of Building Maintenance. So thank you for the questions. And if I miss one, please just tell me, we'll work through it. So unfortunately, this season, this prolonged below freezing cold stretch led us to incur a little more than we typically see as far as water loss, pipes burst, and things of that nature. So that's one piece to this. The key really, and I think to answer the question is how we arrived here, we had two really large incidents that got us here. The incident that occurred at Francis Scott Key, and then there was a large incident at the Baltimore School for the Arts. So those two incidents really propelled us over our annual limit. And there's about a dozen others that don't rise to that level. I mean, these are incidents that could be as small as a $10,000 incident, and they rise into the millions of dollars of incidents. So, but again, those two large incidents coupled with the variety of others that we incurred due to the prolonged cold really is what led us here to need this additional, spending authority on this contract. So, these incidents are typically always covered by insurance. So I say typically, you never know what the cause is going to be or how it's going to come about. But typically when they occur, they are insurable losses due to a pipe freeze or a burst or what it may. This covers fire as well. Fortunately, we're not here talking about fire. This is all really related to water. But again, they're typically all insured losses when they occur. And you had another question. I think I didn't touch on it.
Trying to figure out how much, I mean, here we are actually putting monies to insure ourselves for future possibilities.
Right.
But I wanted to know how much of what has occurred has been covered already. And so therefore, are we spending more than we need to because we already have some protection? That was all I'm trying to figure out now, our level of protection there.
And I'm not an expert when it comes to the level of protection. I do know that, to your point, and I don't think anybody here from finance who may know better, but that we pay for our coverage through Baltimore City, and we are reimbursed at a reasonable rate, I believe, from everything I've seen. So I don't see any issue with that, if you will, per se, as to how that goes. But again, I don't, from the facilities perspective, this contract helps us get our schools back in service as fast as we can to recover and get our students back in place. The insurance process works itself through, and I know that the city of Baltimore reimburses us. I learned about 2 times a year, typically, they review the claims and then they will reimburse the district based upon, what we've incurred and expended to recover from these losses.
Joint committee, I had similar questions. Hoping for some feedback prior to now. We know that a large portion of this came through the 2 incidents that you identified. Can you help us really understand where those numbers are? How much is being designated to incident at Francis Scott Key, and how much is being allocated to other schools?
So where we are right now, and numbers aren't finalized, but about specific to this contract, that's what I'm talking about, the fire and water restoration. So about $6 million at Francis Scott Key. And right now we're estimating the School for the Arts is going to come in just over $1 million. Again, there's still some moving parts there that we're wrapping up at the School for the Arts. And then again, just to touch on things that don't rise to that level, but you may have heard, Mervo had to close a couple days because of a pipe, similar situation. Not nearly as large a cost, but again, that's where this contract comes in. We had a sprinkler head burst at Arlington in the lobby. We had a frozen coil that kind of took out the office area at Cecil Elementary. Again, they don't rise to that level of cost and closure and things, but when you couple all those together we've got $7 million just in those 2 instances that occurred within about a month to 6 weeks of each other, and coupled with everything else that came with the prolonged cold, that's why we've arrived here at this number to get us through where we are right now with those large costs. And then as you'll see, this contract's going to be extended for about 18 more months. So we need to have that additional, hopefully we don't use a dime of it. Hopefully we don't incur another loss. But this, the additional spending authority on this will cover us should there be additional losses in the next 18 months of this contract.
I appreciate that. So this is what my concern was. And we look at just years in 2001, this initial award was 1.5. 2021, 2023, we increased it to 2 million. In 2024, we increased it to 3 million. Now we're asking going from 3 million to 20. So we're talking about an increase of 17 million. I know that we have, this year, we've had a lot of incidents. But when I look at the amount that we're requesting, the amount, really, I'm challenged with the amount based on what we're suggesting. Let me add this, and this is a question that I asked during the committee. We have to do this work. This is important work. We have to make sure that our schools are safe. I think it's important for the board to be aware whether we're making an investment based on risk, or are we paying the consequences for our lack of investment, or whether it be the state's lack of investment over a long period of time, we're paying the cost of that lack of investment. So one, I want to be able to understand that. Two, I want to be able to understand that these dollars, a portion, are reimbursable. Those reimbursable dollars, when they come back to us, how are they going to be reallocated? Do they then go into a fund that we continue to use for risk management, or are they allocated back into the budget a different way? So if you can answer those questions, I think I would be okay.
Yeah, so I agree with you on both capital renewal of our aging infrastructure is certainly would help us, to insulate us hopefully from further types of incidents, but in a portfolio the size of which we have, and you're always going to have an aging infrastructure and schools that are, getting close to the need for renovations and such. So I think the district does, an outstanding job. We do the best we can with the funding that we have, as I'm sure you all see, to keep our buildings as operational and as functional as we can. Again, I come to these, this was an uncommon long cold stretch that kind of caught us. So if there's any weakness out there in a facility, it's going to be exposed when you have conditions like that for that period of time. So even in I think the best systems that have outstanding capital renewal, when you've got 15, 16, 17 million square feet of space, I think there's always going to be a risk, for things like this. Hopefully not to this extent anymore. So I do agree that investing in the facilities would help prevent some of that. And I think you'd ask, the other part of your question is my perspective from facilities, but my understanding of the process is such that the reimbursement does come back into the district in a general type of, or a risk management type of fund. It's not my area of expertise, and Doc may know better than that, but that's hopefully got your two questions.
So I'm going to jump in just to
Please.
support you, Chris. So Lynette Washington, Chief Operating Officer. So I want to go back to what Commissioner Mohammed said about the investments. And so, yes, we do need more resources for capital in order for us to not have, our aging infrastructure not being impacted by weather conditions. I will say that our finance team will have to speak to how the funds from more of a logistics perspective comes back into the system. But as Chris said, we request for reimbursement for the claims that we submit through our insurance claims, and then that's how the city will reimburse us. And so we have been working with them so that it's done in a timely manner, and we don't have to wait over a long period of time, so that those resources can come back into the district. And so with this contract, what we're doing is that we're just trying to ensure that we are able to pay our bills as they're coming in. And so in previous years, the timeliness on the insurance claims was not as it is today. And so now that we do have more timely responsiveness with the city, we are able to request for those reimbursements. But again, we still have the bills that we need to pay because of all of the work that has happened over the last 2 months. And so that's the reason why the contract has increased significantly.
So we're going to make this, suggesting that we're gonna make this payment of 17 million. What does our history tell us around whether, reimbursements are actually made in full? What percentage do we actually receive back? You just look at last year, the year previous to that, what was the percentage of what, attempted to receive versus what reported?
So I would have to, that's a question that I would have to lean into the finance team to provide the accurate response to that. But I do know that what we request, we receive most of it. There may be a couple of taxes that are taken off, but we receive most of the requests or from our claims that we send to the city.
This is the question that I think can be explored further within operations. Just given that there is just a multifaceted, we need to understand from finance. This is something that we can bring that is not contingent upon the actual procurement itself, but can give us greater insight into the reimbursement process and how that works and flows. So this is something I'm going to task with the operations committee of looking into a little bit further in detail. Just so that the staff can get the requisite information so that operations can explore that in the committee.
Just one last question.
Yeah, okay.
Is that, are we looking at, I mean, we're looking at the School for the Arts, we're looking at this, then are we looking at portfolio of buildings that are all approaching a plateau where you would think that we need to have an extra buffer of protection around them? And that's why, I mean, because I know there's been a disinvestment from the state, from the, city, from everybody, as we've moved along. Are you looking at a group of buildings that we say, hey, we better prepare because they're all around the same age or they're all is that part of your reasoning? Or are they diverse in their aging infrastructure?
No, I would say we had an unusual circumstance that happened during this winter, which, the last time this happened was several years ago. We look at our portfolio across the board through the capital improvement process. And so that's where we're informed about the conditions of our buildings. But I will say that this is unusual, unique situation.
Chair Sally, this is Commissioner Coy. Can you clarify on whether you are recommending that we pull this from consent agenda for tonight, or and then talk more in Operations Committee, or if we vote on this tonight, but then have follow-up conversations because this is a thoughtful conversation to be having, but doesn't need to be held up.
It's the latter. So that's something that I asked you guys to explore a little bit more in detail on operations. It's not contingent upon us moving forward with the procurement this evening.
I'm happy to make sure that in Operations Committee, we do spend time following up on various aspects related to this.
Yeah, and that way the committee can formulate questions that they have that are more appropriate to be followed up in detail. We can set out a series of reports and presentations that helps us gain understanding of the processes.
I just want to highlight for the record that
Sure.
This was, and I have other committee members here, that these questions for during committee, that this isn't something that we're bringing today. This is something that was brought to committee and was requested
So was the information not followed through by committee, or was this like, did we not get a resolution within staff?
We
from
did not
committee?
get a resolution in committee.
Okay,
And
so one of the, go ahead.
just for the record, that, I think that when we had, as a board, when we make commitments, and I think that this is a commitment that we should make, we have to ensure that, our students, have safe buildings. But it deserves a level of, conversation from this board, because we're making a, commitment of a $17 billion increase from last year. And, I would like us to be able to recognize that, this conversation is worth it.
I appreciate that. And one of the things that I'll ask that the operations committee does is follow through on the staff request, working with our board executive to make sure that we have the full set of information. And if an item is not ready to come before this board for vote, that's the responsibility of the operations committee to ensure that it stops then and there before this evening. So that is the task going forward to operations. Thank you so much, team, for Lynette Shaw. Thank you, Chief Function. I believe that is the end of the items that are on. Okay, thank you so much. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? So moved. Esposito. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Ames Messenger.
Thank you. Just one second. All in favor? Vice Chair Parker,
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger,
Yes.
Commissioner Chicas Guzman, I believe is absent. Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. Thank you. Commissioner Mohammed,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott Woodruff,
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons,
I'm recusing myself from this vote.
Commissioner Slater Harrington. Thank you, and I'm in favor. This motion passes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in favor, 1 absent, and 1 recusal. I'll now invite the team back up from the Office of New Initiatives for a presentation on item 7.01, the renaming of a school. Good question. Oh, okay. Commissioner, do you want to make that point about the recusal? Yep.
So sorry, just for the record, I am recusing myself from the consent agenda because of New Song being on that vote and me being a former board member.
Thank you.
Hello again, it's Angela Perez, Senior Executive Director, Office of New Initiatives. I'm joined by
I'm Lindsay Anderson. I'm a manager in the Office of New Initiatives.
I'm going to drive this one. I'm just pulling up the presentation in a quick second. No, yeah, I'm pulling. It's just It's just moving slow. So sorry. I was trying to be more expeditious, but I'm having a little slowness too. So sorry about that. Okay. Yep, and if that can be put on the main screen, that would be great. So we're here to share, to sort of begin the information process about Southwest Baltimore Community School. And naming, doing the naming process. This aligns with priority 7, which is working to make sure that we're creating equity by making sure our schools are inclusive and having a supportive environment, as well as engaging in priority 4, engaging all stakeholders in decision-making of school. School's name is an important part of that. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay, who is going to walk us through the presentation.
Good evening. The process for naming or renaming a school facility or program is governed by Board Policy FFA. And the purpose of Board Policy FFA affirms that the voices and aspirations of students and school communities should be empowered in the naming and renaming process, because school names help create a shared identity for schools and bring school communities together. This request tonight is coming as a result of a change in the governing structure of Southwest Baltimore Community School. In January 2025, the Board of School Commissioners voted to non-renew the operator for Southwest Baltimore Charter School and keep the school open as a traditional school. So last year, the school's transition committee requested to use the name Southwest Baltimore Community School temporarily until we could go through a full renaming process as outlined in Policy FFA. So that's what we're doing this year with the school. Policy FFA requires a lot of community engagement in this process. The first step in the process is to make a request and submit a form to the Office of Achievement and Accountability. And then the school leader puts together a naming committee. The school community performs research and collects name suggestions and data. We share the request in a public board meeting like we're doing tonight. Later on this spring, the school stakeholders will vote in the new name of the school, and then we will come back later in the spring to share the results of the community voting process. This is the specific timeline for the process at Southwest Baltimore Community School. So the school has established a naming committee. That committee has met and has created a plan for engaging the school community in the naming process. Within the next week, they will launch their initial survey of school stakeholders to get feedback on keeping the name Southwest Baltimore Community School or deciding on a wholly new school name. Later in March, we're having a naming forum to engage families and community members in the naming process, and we'll be doing additional classroom activities at the school to engage students in the process. In April, the school community will do a final vote, and as I shared in May, we will be bringing back the final results of this process for our board to vote on.
In that voting process for adult members of the community are usually held like digital, like through Google, so that it's accessible to all members of the community. I just wanted to name that because it came up in public comment earlier. For students, depending on the age group, sometimes that's a paper ballot that they do. Sometimes they're participating in the digital. That's determined based on what's age appropriate for the student level. But the intention is that everybody in the community is able to participate in the same way in the vote.
Policy FFA also outlines who should be on the school naming committee. That's a representative from the school's organized parent group, a representative from the school family community council, students, faculty, staff, and one or more community partners. And then these are some kind of core questions that are outlined in our policy that the school community should consider when they're deciding on a new name. Does the name honor the experience, culture, and humanity of students? How does this name represent your school community? And have you considered names that have been previously used by city schools but no longer exist due to closure? If the proposal is to name the school after a person, there's also a legacy test outlined in our policy that needs to be met to establish a record of service for that person. We anticipate in this process that the school will be voting kind of up or down whether to keep the name Southwest Baltimore Community School. It seems like based on initial feedback we've gotten, the community is very tied to that name. So we don't imagine we'll be naming it after a person, but we're going to see what comes up in this initial survey that we're conducting. That's everything.
Thank you.
So much. Are there any comments or questions from board colleagues this evening? Hearing none, thank you so much for the presentation. We appreciate it. Twice from O&I tonight. Thank you. This takes us to the end of our agenda this evening. Our notice of upcoming meetings. We'll have teaching and learning on March 10th, 2026 at 3:30 in the afternoon. We'll be back here for our public board meeting on March 17th at 6 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? Thank you so much. All in favor by saying aye. Thank you. Have a great evening.